Shiny hunting in Pokemon games is annoying, especially in the older games, but for some reason I just can't get enough of it. As a kid, I was fascinated by shiny Pokemon, but always thought they were too hard to find and that I would never find one myself, so I never got into shiny hunting until recently. I've never found a shiny in any of my old childhood Pokemon games, so how about we try and get one in my original Pokemon Pearl game, which I got on release date back in 2007. I spent so much time exploring Sinnoh, so much so that I apparently completed the Pokédex, which allows you to get the Pokeradar, a key item that makes it easier to catch shiny Pokemon. There's a lot of intricacies when it comes to the Pokeradar, so let's consult the whiteboard where I tried my best to explain it live. So I don't really know entirely how to Pokeradar. I have the Pokeradar in Gen 4 in Pearl. I know I need like repels and stuff. This will be a video, of course. Well, most likely. We'll see how it goes. It could go terribly wrong and this won't be a video, but that doesn't stop me in the past actually. So we got Pokeradar. Radar. So the way it works, from my understanding, this is me, and then this is gonna be grass patches. I have to awkwardly just make a few more. Should I have done this before stream? Maybe. Okay, there we go. It is not centered at all. I don't know how I messed it up that badly. We're gonna use the Pokeradar. So you use it, and then some of the grass shakes around you. You go into the grass, and then on your touchscreen you have a Pokédex app that tells you how many of that Pokemon you encountered. And the more of that Pokemon you encounter, the more likely it is to be shiny, and I believe it caps at about 40. When you use the Pokeradar, grass tiles 4 away from you could shine. So like, for example, or could shake rather. So for example, like, this one could shake, this one could shake, this one could shake, and then like, that one could shake. And you want to go into one of those, get the target encounter, in our case Ponyta, and then keep going until you find it. You also have to catch the Pokemon or knock them out. I believe catching them is better than knocking them out. I don't know, like, I'm giving myself a lot of time to do this. This could take us an hour, this could take us, like, days. So, that's Pokeradar. If I zoom in slightly, you can see it so much easier. I don't understand that. How do cameras work, chat, by the way? I don't understand them. I don't know. I watched a tutorial, and it was a YouTube short because I have the attention span of a 12-year-old apparently. There's just a lot to unpack with the Pokeradar, and that's a very basic explanation since at the time I didn't really know how it worked. I still don't really know how it works, and no one can seem to agree on how you should do it or what you shouldn't do when using the Pokeradar, but more on that later. So the Pokemon we'll be shiny hunting for with the radar is Ponyta. Shiny Ponyta is a great shiny, especially in the 2D games with its sprite. I picked Ponyta because it's famously the only wild fire-type Pokemon you can find in Sinnoh before the Elite Four, and because it's a blue Ponyta, so I can sing about how I'm gonna keep on hunting for that blue Ponyta in the tune of Pink Pony Club if you didn't click off the video already after my singing. I thought that song was one of the most popular songs out right now, but a lot of people in my Twitch chat had no idea what I was talking about when I mentioned it. I decided to go on Route 206 for this hunt, which has a 45% encounter rate for Ponyta in the daytime and Pearl version. This makes it easier to get as our first encounter, since in order to start a chain with the Pokeradar, you have to use it, go into one of the shaky grass patches that appear, there's a max of 4 that could appear and ideally you want all 4 to appear, and then whatever Pokemon you run into starts your chain, and every Pokemon you encounter after that through the Pokeradar in a shiny patch should be whatever that target was, in our case Ponyta, but there's many ways to break your chain, and even more superstition around Pokeradar chaining, and you can keep track of your chain by looking at this Pokédex app on the touchscreen. I then proceeded to break a chain right at 1, fantastic start. I'm sure someone is going to say, but PaPaSea, don't you know that you could get a guaranteed shiny Ponyta in Legends Arceus? Why not just get it there? And you would be right, but for 1, Generation 4 shiny Pokemon are just cooler, and 2, I want to experience the original Pokeradar in Gen 4 and find shinies in every single game that I can, as I've already found shiny Pokemon in Legends Arceus before, but not in the original Diamond and Pearl games. And that would also require me to plug in my Switch again, which I had to unplug for my Wii, which is behind Duraludon here, and we'll need our Wii for a later part of the video. That's a great way to explain it. I also mentioned that I'm using Max Repel since if you encounter a Pokemon that isn't from the shaky patch, it breaks your chain, and a lot of things break your chain. Max Repels aren't as cost effective as Super Repels, but they last longer, so it's worth the convenience to me, especially since I have a lot of items to sell. So Repels should be in this pocket. I have none. Oh, this might not be legit. Yeah, don't tell Nintendo, but as a kid, I may or may not have given myself 95 of every single TM with a cheating device, since I didn't want to have to replay the game multiple times to get a TM that you normally only get one copy of. I'm glad they changed that in the newer Pokemon games, and when I say newer Pokemon games, I mean anything released Generation 5 onwards, which really isn't that new, I guess, as Black and White 1 released about 15 years ago. I'm old. I know technically Super Repels are more efficient than Max Repels, but Max Repels last longer, so 99 should be enough, I think. And yeah, that will be enough, assuming you don't break your chain every 5 minutes, but who would do that? So I think this one should have it. I broke the chain! Yeah, we might be here a while. I also decided to set up this Mew with False Swipe and Thunder Wave to make it easier to catch the shiny Ponyta once we encounter it. Seeing as we're catching Ponytas pretty easily with the repeat balls, it wasn't entirely necessary to set up this Mew, but I have all of these False Swipe and Thunder Wave TMs, so I might as well use them. Using a rare and elusive mythical Pokemon from an old event just to catch another shiny Pokemon is probably not what this Mew thought it would be doing when it was born back in 2006. Now, some of you guys might be more familiar with the Pokeradar from Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, or even Pokemon X and Y, which have their own versions of the Pokeradar. In Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, the shiny patches stay shaking on the screen, so it's more visible and easier to run into or to avoid if you want to avoid them, while in the original Diamond and Pearl games, they shake once and then stop and you have to remember where they are. These patches are still active with encounters even if they're not shaking, so you have to keep your eyes peeled after each catch or each time you use the Pokeradar so you don't miss them. You at least don't have to whip out the actual Pokeradar after every single encounter, which is nice, although you could do that if you want to optimize your grass patches, but that's yet another thing I didn't know before starting this shiny hunt. Then in Pokemon X and Y, things work a bit differently, which also adds a lot to the confusion surrounding the Pokeradar, although I've never used the Pokeradar in X and Y, so I don't really know how that works. I do have plans to try it out in the future in my Twitch streams though, so let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in a video that involves Generation 6 shiny hunting in general, or just don't, as most of the time when I say something like that, nobody ever comments about it. So to explain more about the Pokeradar in Gen 4, these large areas with grass are optimal since the radar can make grass patches shake up to 4 steps away from your player, and unbeknownst to me at the time, patches 4 tiles away have the best chance of continuing your chain. There is a discrepancy on patches on the edge, or if patches directly next to other patches have a higher chance of breaking your chain or not too. I've heard mixed things about this, but hey, this isn't the only time that Pokemon fans are confused about how a shiny hunting method works. Like when I hunted in this game on stream a while back, nobody could agree on how catch combos worked, and I'm pretty sure I accidentally got a full odd shiny Magikarp while trying to go for a Goldeen. Either way, it's best to stick to the center of the grassy area you choose to maximize the shaky grass that can possibly happen and be 4 steps away from your player. We can see in the Pokechap on the touchscreen what our current chain is and our previous highest chains are. As you can see, I have a couple of random 1 chains from when I was doing this as a kid and had no idea how this worked. Now I have a slightly better idea of what I'm doing, although I've been spending so much time trying to get a good chain going. In fact, most people can get a chain of 40 or so in about 30 minutes, while I've been at this for over an hour and have a highest chain streak of like 6. I'm really not doing a good job of beating the "how can you play so much Pokemon and still be so bad at it" allegations. When you use Pokeradar, a different song plays so you know you're in it, something that I became all too familiar with during this hunt, and hey, wait a minute, that's another Geodude. This Geodude broke our chain, and I hope we don't see more of this rock guy today. Oh, why did that patch look different behind me? I didn't know much about Pokeradar at the time, and I still don't know that much now, but there's actually 2 types of shaky grass, well 3 if you count the shiny shaky grass, which can appear after a chain of 40, and there's 2 non-shiny ones that have very important differences, which I find out later on and I'll explain later on in the video. Yet another confusing mechanic to add on top of everything else when it comes to the Pokeradar. Repeat balls worked very well, but I kept breaking my chains and seeing... not you again. Okay, this one looks like the best one to go to. I also have to be careful because like I have to make sure I'm not close to the edge. What? What'd I do wrong? Like, did I do something wrong, or is that just one of those things where the radar can sometimes just break your chain for no reason? I'm pretty sure it's a rule that if a Ponyta chain gets broken, it's almost always broken by a Geodude. To be fair, that Geodude was only 3 steps away from the player and not 4, but still, come on, Geodude, get out of here and give me that blue Ponyta. I should also mention another way that your chain can break. Randomly. Yeah, that's right. You could be doing everything correct, but the game is hard-coded to just give you a 6% chance for your chain to break after an encounter for no real reason. There's some other factors that influence that which can lower the random fail chance, but from what I was able to see, it's about a 6% chance in most situations. That is quite rude if you ask me, since I just want to keep on hunting for that blue Ponyta. Blue Ponyta. Okay, I'll stop now. I tried to prioritize the farthest tiles away from me going forwards, but sometimes you only get a grass tile close to you with shaky grass, like this one that's right next to me, and thankfully you find Ponyta and don't get punished. I even go to some edge tiles, don't be weird chat, that didn't break my chain, even though some people say edge tiles are supposed to break your chain. Again, much like magnets, nobody really knows how Pokeradar works, but I dare learn that you could get a shiny patch before your chain hits 40 even, they're just a lot less likely, and you could even get multiple shiny patches appearing at once. You could technically get all 4 shiny patches at once, even though that's incredibly unlikely. I got my highest streak going after nearly 2 hours of streaming. Follow on Twitch, by the way, at twitch.tv/PaPaSea, link below. Then as I go to our next patch of grass, 3 spaces away, Cricketube. I mean, at least it's not Geodude, but I already broke my chain multiple times before hitting a chain of 7, so at this rate I might be able to write a full Blue Ponyta song before I actually find a Blue Ponyta. The beauty of Pokeradar is you could technically get multiple shinies in just a few hours, so long as you maintain your chains, and I'm not maintaining my chains. Since I kept breaking chains and wasted a ton of repels and repeat balls, my PC boxes are now filled with Ponytas. I go back to Conolave City for some more repeat balls and repels so we don't run out. While doing this, I thought more about the intricacies of the Pokeradar as well. The game doesn't really tell you much about how it works, how you're supposed to use it, so how are you supposed to know that you need to use repels, let alone that you need to prioritize going for shaky grass that is 4 tiles away from your player? I have no idea how anyone just figured that out while playing the game normally, and oh yeah, while buying some more supplies, this happened. So I thought I did something wrong, and apparently I did. Why are you here? You weren't here before. What gift do you have for me? Oh, a Celebi. Winter 2011. I'm pretty sure happened is I went to a convention, they reran a ton of old events, and I think I just got this event and then never picked it up. I totally forgot I had an event Celebi loaded up from a previous convention I went to in this game, but maybe it can help us for shiny hunting later on. So now back to Route 206. Gotta keep on hunting for that Blue Ponyta. Oh, gotta keep... Okay, enough of that. Okay, we still got a Ponyta. There we go. What just happened? I encounter Ponyta, I catch it, and now nothing shakes. After this unfortunate incident, I learned that your location really matters for where you use the Pokeradar or finish up an encounter. The game checks every tile around you, even if there isn't grass there, and it can select a tile without grass, which means no encounter. All 4 tiles could be selected outside of the grass, which will break your chain too, which is why it's best to stay close to the center of the grass patch and reset your radar if you don't get favorable patches, but I didn't know that yet and still got lucky enough to not break my chain without ever resetting the radar. You should also always make sure that there are at least 8 grass patches circled around you, because the game is forced to pick one of those 8 tiles directly next to you, which again, I didn't even know until after making this video. While being efficient is typically the best, as it's, well, the most efficient, sometimes being lucky is all you need, and with shiny Pokemon, you're gonna need a lot of luck. So even though the game has the chance to pick no grass tiles at all, if you're in a spot that doesn't have a lot of grass, a message will appear saying no grass patches were found, so I'm not 100% sure what happened there. It could have been a random 6% chance to break the chain, or maybe I did something wrong, most likely the latter. It was technically an edge piece, but apparently edges shouldn't have a higher chance to break your chain. On the next chain, the second encounter was on the opposite edge and did not break our chain even. But only 2 patches shake close by and we're able to continue the chain. This next chain is going to be the chain. I just know it, or at least I'm just really hoping for it. I get up to a chain of 6, which is sadly tied for my record. I hit edge patches no problem, but get put in a weird predicament where the shaky patches keep showing up on the southern side of the route in this little appendage coming out of the main patch of grass. This isn't so bad, although I prefer to stay with the main patch of grass as there's much more grass there. Keep in mind that at this point, I still didn't know you were supposed to reset the radar after you got some unfavorable shakes after every encounter, so I go south and at least hit another few Ponyta, bringing our chain up to 10, double digits, finally! I didn't have nearly as much trouble when I tried Pokeradar and BDSP about a year and a half ago. Some shaky patches show up behind this tree that's barely visible as well, or under the bridge, which is also hard to see. I start getting really nervous working down on this small area of grass that our chain might break so easily, so I try to make my way up to the main patches, and... oh gosh. It didn't break it, but there's only 2 grass patches really close by. So I'll go to this one. Please don't break my chain. Okay. Still Ponyta. It's always patches that are so far away that are like down here. I don't like the patches this far south. Let me go up north. Why? Why are you here? We were doing so well. We're at like 12 or 13. Chain broken at 12, which isn't even a third of the way there, but I am determined to get this shiny blue Ponyta so I can finally say I found a shiny in my childhood copy of Pokemon Pearl started on release date way back in 2007. At least now we can return to the main area and start another chain. How fun. I thought about even having a failed chain counter for this video, and I started counting while writing the script for this video, but honestly, it's so embarrassingly high, so if you want to see me break Pokeradar chains, or just fail at Pokemon in general, you can watch me live on Twitch and get a live view of my recordings that make it into these videos, so you can make fun of me over there. While doing this method hunt, despite all of the fails, I started to really enjoy it. Typically when I shiny hunt, I do soft resets or full odds random encounters, which isn't as engaging and is often just a passive background activity while I watch TV or something else, as that's just a 1 in 8,192 chance to find a shiny with each encounter. With a lot of method hunts, which increase your odds of finding a shiny Pokemon, and Pokeradar specifically, you have to pay attention to your game so you don't miss the patches, and have much better chances at finding a shiny than full odd shiny hunting. It can be frustrating with how easy it is to break your chain, but I grew to like it and plan on doing some more on not only Generation 4, but on X and Y too to revisit the Kalos region ahead of Legends EA releasing later this year. But for now, we gotta keep on hunting. This is our biggest chain, passing a whopping 13, and at one point I thought I broke my chain since I misjudged where the shaky patch was, but I just got confused thinking I encountered it one space sooner, or maybe I forgot to use a repel or something like that, but it turns out that I just don't know how to count. This one was 3 away, maybe 4. No! That one breaks? That one breaks. I was in a good spot, and I was 3 away. The Ace Pokeradar Chainbreaker Geodude strikes yet again. The more I do this, and the more people that come into my chat and tell me about Pokeradar, the better I got. I'm able to get longer chains now, and even considered going to another route, since Route 206 might not be the best spot to find a shiny Ponyta. Too bad it only took me a few hours to realize that. We have to break our record of a chain of 24, and although it's been over 3 hours by this point, I know we can do it. Eventually. I'm sure Pokeradar experts have left their comments already about how bad I am at radaring, and I'm sure non-radar experts have done the same, so I'll save you the trouble of showing every single chain that I broke on Route 206, as it was quite a lot. By this point, I take a break to eat lunch and watch Sir Toasty Toad's video on Pokeradar. I waited to watch this on stream while I ate lunch since it was one of the most recent guides, and Toasty is currently trying to get every Pokeradar shiny Pokemon possible in Gen 4, so he really knows what he's talking about. I recommend you check it out linked below if you want to learn more about the intricacies of Pokeradar in Generation 4. I learned a lot from this video and began to prioritize tiles that are 4 spaces away from the player, as they have the highest chance of continuing your chain the farther away the tiles are. This time, I finally start resetting the radar if the grass patches aren't optimal to maintain our chain the best we can, which is tricky since the patches are still active while recharging the radar, so I have to try my best to avoid them while running around. Because if you didn't know, after you use the Pokeradar, you have to walk like 50 steps or something before you can use it again. That might have only been 3. Bruh, come on. It was only 3. After this recent broken chain, I decided to go to Route 210 to continue the hunt since someone in chat let me know that Route 210 has a slightly higher chance to encounter Ponyta, meaning it'll be a lot easier to start our chains there after we break them, as we're most likely going to break a few more chains. Route 210 is also more enclosed and doesn't have those appendages coming from the north or south, so we should see more shaky patches here. With our new knowledge from watching Toasty's video and moving to a new route, I start to maintain my chains a lot easier. Who knew that actually having a general idea of how to do this properly would be so beneficial? Things go really well on Route 210 as our streak hits 30 and then 40. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go. This is 40. This is gonna be 40. Wait, okay, so now that I'm at 40, all I do is keep resetting the radar until I see a shiny patch, right? Oh my gosh, chat. It's been almost 5 hours. Now that our chain hits 40, all we have to do is reset the radar until we see the shiny patch appear, which is just done by running around for a few seconds. It's not that hard to mess up, however there are fast patches and slow patches, and the fast patches have this slight flash effect that can be mistaken for a shiny patch, with people in chat constantly being confused by them as they do look quite similar. These fast patches will be more important later on, but for now we have to keep going until we see a shiny patch and avoid any other shaky patch, since once you hit a chain of 40, you don't want to risk the 6% chance of your chain breaking for no reason after going into an encounter. I locked in hard for this, since it's been about 5 hours at this point. It should be roughly a 2% chance for a shiny patch to appear each time I use the radar on a chain of 40, but even that has some discrepancies to it. Like, it's only a 2% chance if all 4 patches appear, but if only 2 or 3 patches appear, it's a lower chance. Again, yet another confusing part about the Pokeradar. Then, since my fat thumbs moved the D-pad, I accidentally ran into a patch of grass, and... The radar changes if you broken? Oh gosh, I lost count. I would say at least like 8 to 10. Oh. No! No! Oh my god. Whew. We got bailed out there as we encountered a Ponyta, and our chain goes to 41 so we can continue. Then I get distracted again explaining what's going on with the whiteboard behind me to a new person in chat, and this happened. Right now I just have Diamond and Pearl up there because we're trying to think Diamond and Pearl. And I have the Japanese ones because they look better, but you can't really tell because it's so small, like out of focus. Do you have Goose Tape? Is that a joke or is that an actual thing? No! What? I should have paid more attention, as I did that twice now over the span of like 5 minutes, but like I said before, if our chain gets broken, it's almost always going to be this little Geodude guy. I reset the game since I used so many items and didn't want to waste them, so we go again. Here I finally learned the difference between the 2 different speeds of grass, and realize it's best to stick to the same speed for each encounter, although it can be really tricky to tell with how little time you have to see the patches shake. I try my best to stick to the slow patches for Ponyta, since they're on screen longer and slightly easier to see, and yeah, as you can see from the Poketch, I had quite a few chains break in the 20s, so I started to get a little frustrated. It's also been like over 6 hours of hunting by now. Yeah, I don't like any of those. I'm at a chain of 15. Make the glue factory a lot of money when they clear out your boxes. I was just thinking, oh, not you again. While I realize now that was my fault for breaking the chain, I was only 3 spaces away, it's still very frustrating. You know, Golem is actually one of my more low-key favorite Pokemon, and I even have this Golem sticker on one of my DS's, but after all these Geodudes frustrating me and breaking my chains, I don't know about that so much anymore, Golem. You might have to step aside for Duraludon, who's kind of just like been here for the last few videos and streams. I then have another chain broken by Geodude, and then... Okay, this is going to be our 3rd highest chain... well, after about 7 hours, I've had enough. I decided to take a break and try again later on now that I know more about Pokeradar, and trying to reclaim the shiny Ponyta later that day and hopefully not break another chain of 40. After coming back again later in the day, the first chain that I do at night starts off well to get all the way to 26, and then this happened. I really locked in now, and only go to shaky tiles 4 tiles away very strictly, and only go into the slow shaky patches as well. This means that, assuming I make no mistakes, the only way our chain can break now is from the random 6% chance for it to just break for no reason. I had another chain break later on because of the patches being off screen, and even accidentally just ran away from a Ponyta when starting a new chain, but now, after over 8 hours of hunting, it's time to lock in even harder. I had some people comment saying I can just knock out the Ponytas, which you could technically do, but if you catch them all, you have a higher chance of your chain continuing, at least I think you do, at the expense of just having a ton of Ponytas in your PC that you have to get rid of later on. Honestly, in 8 hours, I probably could have set up my 3 Pokemon Platinum games and go for Shiny Turtwig soft resets, and I might have gotten a Shiny Turtwig sooner than I got this Shiny Ponyta. I've been going for Turtwig for over a year, and it's not my main hunt anymore, but I just want a shiny in Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum, and today is gonna be that day. I managed to get our 2nd chain of 40 on the day, and I will not mess this one up. Don't look at me like that, Duraludon. I mean it this time. Oh, you were just waiting for the song? Fine then. I know You wanted it full odds, but I'm using radar, so sorry Pokegods. And I know that there's a special place, Route 206 for that pony with a special flame. I'm just standing there, using my radar, hoping that this chain ends up going far. I'll make Rowan happy, he'll be so proud of me. Counting my steps, it's Ponyta I see. I'm on a deep chain for that blue pony girl who shines in the grass. Oh, Rowan, I'm just having fun. Fire repellent great balls, the shinies I call. Oh, Rowan, blue Ponyta, I'm gonna keep on hunting for that blue Ponyta. I wanna keep on hunting down by Cycling Road. I wanna keep on hunting for that blue Ponyta, blue Ponyta. That was it. It's this one, chat. Gotta keep on hunting for that blue Ponyta, blue Ponyta. I name it Chapel Road, of course, because, well, I mean, if you're watching this video, then you've heard my terrible singing and probably know why, and because Rowan is the professor of Sinnoh, so it just fits. After that, I decided to try to go for a second shiny Ponyta, since if I ever want to do a Generation 4 shiny living dex, I need a second one to evolve into Rapidash, and I prefer to not spend another 10 hours or so on a second Ponyta. Yeah, this took nearly 10 hours, by the way. Another thing I thought to do was to put all of the excess Ponytas I caught into my Pokemon Ranch on the Wii, mainly because it's a lot easier to just throw them there and forget about them, rather than trying to release 200 or so Ponytas one by one, and also because I can feel like Ash in that one episode of the anime where he caught a ton of Tauros, except instead of a ton of Tauros, I caught a ton of Ponyta and ended up with a shiny one. Pokemon Ranch only let me put in like 20 Ponytas at a time, but at least we can see some of them frolic around in 3D for eternity. I also probably should have put the shiny one in there so we can see it in Ranch. I might do it in post if I remember, but there's a good chance I just forget and you just either don't see this or just see face cam of me just saying I might do it. I decided to call it quits on the second blue Ponyta after like 40 more minutes of trying to get it, as by this point it was like 9 o'clock at night. But we finally did it! I got a shiny Pokemon in my childhood copy of Pokemon Pearl, and now let's try Pokeradar in another game on my Twitch streams, as well as some other shiny methods for a future video I have in mind.